Coming up on today's show, we break down the highly anticipated remake of the Danish horror film Speak No Evil.
Oh no.
Thank God there's a doctor in the house.
I'm not a doctor.
What?
But didn't you say you were a doctor?
Did I?
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, don't forget to subscribe up above and say what's up down below. We have one major rule around here: no spoilers. Now that we got that out of the way, there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score the maximum of 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, a family gets invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they'll soon realize that the family who invited them has a dark side laying inside them. Speak No Evil was directed by James Watkins, who previously directed 2008's Eden Lake and 2012's The Woman in Black. This is Watkins' first feature film in almost a decade, and he wastes no time showcasing his talent behind the camera.
Back before I quit my practice.
You're a lawyer.
Doctor, listen, you have to come and visit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah? Yeah. Done.
This movie looks great. From the sprawling landscapes to the confined spaces, every shot is composed well, taking advantage of the entire frame.
It's so quiet around here. Do they even have any neighbors?
The film was edited well, and the overall execution was a success. I really liked the way this movie looked on the big screen. I thought that the director made very good choices behind the camera, and it shows. There are a lot of different kinds of scenery in this movie, and everything is just shot very beautifully, very exposed. They want to showcase the beauty of the landscape, the isolation of the setting, and it is an absolute success the way everything is shot and the way everything is framed. I think Watkins and his crew deserve all the kudos for the way this movie turned out. All the levels of production were executed at a very high level here, and everything looks great on the big screen. And for the great execution of all the levels of production, this movie gets a 2 for this category. Like I mentioned before, everything is just well composed and ready for the big screen. They take full advantage of the frame, making sure that your eyes are able to wander around the scene, looking for clues, looking for context, and it's very successful in that way. The script was written by James Watkins and Christian and Mads Taftrup, who wrote and directed the original Speak No Evil, which was released in 2022. This version of the story takes the same elements and successfully creates a different emotional and visual journey for the viewer.
Louise is a great woman.
I've always wanted a family like yours.
Mom, something's not right with him.
The story is on the longer side, with the second act dragging just a little bit too long, but all that said, the third act is super captivating and worth the drawn-out narrative.
You're gonna kill us. What? He went down.
Watkins and the brothers took the original idea from 2022 and put a different spin on it, which makes it a completely different viewing experience. For those who have seen the original, you will know exactly what I'm talking about when you see this movie. It has the same beats as the original movie, but they just look a little bit different. With all that said, I think it was an absolute success what they did with the story. I love the third act of this movie. I think it changes absolutely everything, and it makes it a different movie altogether, as I said. If you kept it the same, what's the point of remaking it, right? So I am very happy with the way this movie turned out. They took their vision and they made it different. It's like Earth 1 and Earth 2, Prime 1 and Prime 2, whatever you want to call it. But I think this movie works very well as a remake. And for taking a very good story and enhancing it and making it something different and even better. This movie gets a 2 for story. I really enjoyed how all the acts played out. Act 2 was a little long, but for those fresh eyes who have not seen the first one, I think Act 2 does a good job of building these characters a little bit differently than what we get in the original. I really like how these two movies will just stand out as being two very different ideas at the end of the day. As I mentioned, the beats are there. They just look a little bit different, and by changing that, it really just makes this a whole different movie altogether. The entire ensemble does a great job. Everyone plays their part well, and their performances help make this iteration of the story work.
10 years.
17 years.
Wow.
You get less for murder.
James McAvoy plays the perfect antagonist, the very unpredictable Patty, while Mackenzie Davis, who plays Louise, shines in the third act and helps carry the load the rest of the way. There are not many people in this movie. There are a total of 6 roles in this movie, and all 6 do a great job with their characters.
Could you stop telling my daughter what to do?
You don't criticize other people's children. You should say sorry.
It's okay. I'm sorry, Louise.
Louise, is there anything you'd like to say?
From the children to the adults, everyone just plays their part perfectly. I really enjoyed the children in the movie. I think they did a great job with what they were given and with the situations that they were put in. I really liked what they did with the protagonist couple. I think by changing their way of thinking here and how they're built internally and mentally, I think it really worked for this movie. In comparison, in the original, those characters are built differently, and you'll see that when you guys take a look at the original and at this new iteration. The characters, again, have the same thematic qualities to them, but they're built differently. That's really all I can say without spoiling too much. But I think you guys will enjoy their performances here in this movie. And even in the original movie, those actors did a great job with their characters and with the material and the story that they were given. But back to 2024, I think this cast was really good, and I think it was imperative that these actors did a good job with these characters, because if not portrayed properly, you would have kind of fallen into the same trap as the original. And for the really good cast that we get in this movie, Speak No Evil gets a 2 for ensemble. As I said before, James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, they do a great job with their characters, along with the other actors and actresses in this movie. They are just very, very on point. Although this movie doesn't have excessive blood or gore, it does a great job of building up tension and suspense. The climax offers an enthralling set piece that will not disappoint viewers and will ultimately make you see this whole entire narrative in a different light if you did see the original. As I've mentioned in the past segments, there are things done in this movie that feel the same, but then they turn differently and the outcome completely goes a different route. I really like the suspense that was built up throughout the movie. The audience knows that this couple is not really thinking with the most common logic, and that really comes off in the viewing experience, which makes it very fun in theaters. But then these characters really step up to the plate and they really execute. We do get some blood and some of that good stuff in the third act, but it's very little, but very, very impactful. And I think they did a great job saving that for the last 30 minutes or so of the movie, which I think it definitely needed it, especially after the slow second act. But I think they did a good job ramping up the suspense in order to get us to where we ended up in the third act. And for the suspense and tension that was built in this movie, Speak No Evil gets a 1 for horror. I do wish they had a little bit more of that red stuff You guys know how I like that. But what we got here was, as I said before, impactful when it did come on the screen. So no regrets there. I just wanted some more. I feel that we get a lot of exposition and dialogue throughout the movie, and not enough of that violence that the third act really shows us. I really enjoyed this movie and its narrative. This is the perfect example of how to execute a remake of a recent movie. This story is its own idea and it should be treated as such. Yes, they have the same titles, and as I mentioned, the beats are very similar, but the course these movies take on their own are very different, and they should be watched with different eyes. I made the mistake of thinking this movie was not gonna be necessary because the original came out in 2022, just a couple of years ago. I was a big proponent of this should not be made. It's too soon. I'm not sure what they're gonna do. I hope they don't mess it up. But I am eating all my words, fortunately. And I love saying that because when I am wrong about a trailer, that means we all win because the movie was actually good. So I am glad I was wrong about this one, and I really like what they did with this iteration of the movie. And for the difference we get in this movie, and just the overall different vibes we get in this movie in comparison to the original, Speak No Evil gets a 2 for Legacy. As I said throughout this review, I really like what they do with the beats of this movie, just slowly tweaking them to change the course and trajectory of this story to where we end up. And I think it's a total success and a very, very enjoyable watch in the theater. So to tally it up, Speak No Evil received a 2 for production, a 2 for story, a 2 for ensemble, a 1 for horror, and a 2 for legacy, bringing the total score up to a 9. I am so glad that I was wrong about this movie. It is a very enjoyable watch in the theater. It is definitely a pay for it in the morgue scale, in my opinion. And we will break that down in our upcoming episode of The Morgue, so stay tuned for that. And with that said, go watch this movie. It is very good, and I'm just very glad that I was wrong, folks. I hated on this thing for a hot minute, like I said before, because I just thought it was too soon. It's like, why are we remaking a movie that just came out 2 years ago? Does that make any sense? And with the same writers too. So it's like, hey, didn't you want to tell that original story the first time around? But here we get 2 different kinds of stories with 2 different kinds of vibes. And I recommend both movies. I really enjoyed the 2024 version in terms of viewing experience, but the horror, the real true horror stuff is in the original because of how the characters are built in that movie. But all that said, I really like this movie, and I hope you guys go out there and watch it and enjoy it as well.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. We are dropping spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys throughout the week. We also have the official CorpseFeed podcast, The Morgue, dropping on YouTube as well. You can see the live stream as well on the socials, on Facebook Live, on Twitch Live, and on X Live. You can see the show. We also have about 100 of the episodes of The Morgue on the CorpseFeed YouTube. So go subscribe, go like, share, and comment. Leave some ratings anywhere you get your podcast streams. Again, go like, subscribe, and share on the socials, and hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, folks. We will see you next time for another episode. And remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.